Everyone you have ever met belongs to a single kind of creature. Every face in every crowd, every person in every photograph, every human who has lived in your lifetime. All of them, the same species as you. One kind of human. That feels too obvious to even say. Of course, there's only one kind of human, there's us. But step back far enough, and it isn't even that far as these things go. And that simple sentence falls apart. For almost the entire story of humans on this planet, it was not true. You would have shared the world with others, not apes, not your ancestors. Other people, walking, burying their dead, raising children, looking up at the same moon, who were not your kind of people. There were several kinds of human. And then, very recently, there was one. This is the story of how you came to be the last, and why, after everything we've learned, we still don't really know. The picture most of us carry is a straight line, a hunched, grunting ape on the left, then a parade of slightly taller, slightly smarter cavemen marching to the right, until they straighten up into us. One species, improving step by step, alone the whole way. Almost every part of that picture is wrong. It was never a line, it was a branching tree, a bush, thick with twigs, many of them alive at the very same time. As recently as 50,000 years ago, which in this story is a heartbeat, there were at least four other kinds of humans sharing the planet with us, not before us, beside us. The most famous of them you already think you know, the Neanderthals. The name has practically become an insult, shorthand for someone brutish, slow, knuckle dragging. That reputation comes from a single mistake. In 1908, the first near-complete Neanderthal skeleton was handed to a scientist who was already certain these creatures were lowly brutes. So that's how he rebuilt the body, stooped, bent-kneed, ape-like, shuffling. That image lasted more than half a century until someone finally realized the old man he'd studied wasn't built that way at all. He'd simply been riddled with arthritis. Straightened out, he stood as upright as you do, and the more we learned, the worse the old insult looked. Neanderthals made tools. They tamed fire. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than yours. They buried their dead. In one cave, researchers found a man who had been blind in one eye, deaf, with one arm withered and lost below the elbow. Injuries he survived, healed from, and carried into old age, which means something simple and staggering. For years, someone fed him, someone protected him. When he could no longer keep up, they did not leave him behind. These were not failed rough drafts of us. They were people. And the Neanderthals are the ones we know well. Because this is where it starts to get strange. In 2010, in a cave in Siberia, scientists found a single fragment of a child's finger bone, far too small to tell them much just by looking at it. So they read its DNA instead. And the DNA belonged to no one. Not a Neanderthal, not one of us. It belonged to an entire separate kind of human that nobody had ever known existed. Discovered for the first time in history, not from a skeleton, not from a skull, but from a fingertip. We call them the Denisovans. We still have almost none of their bones. We know them mostly as a signal hidden in living blood, a whole people defined by their ghost. And they weren't the last surprise either. On an island in Indonesia lived humans who never grew past about a meter tall, tiny people, fully grown, making tools and hunting for tens of thousands of years. We didn't share this planet with one other kind of human. We shared it with a whole strange family of them. Which brings us to a girl. About 90,000 years ago, in that same Siberian cave, a child lived and died. We don't know her real name. Researchers gave her one, Denny. And we don't know how she died. We have only a sliver of her, one fragment of bone, pulled out from among thousands of nameless scraps. But that sliver still held her entire genome. And when they read it, they found something no one had ever expected to see. Her mother was a Neanderthal. Her father was a Denisovan. Two different kinds of human, and she was their daughter. Not a faint blend from generations back, a first-generation child. One mother, one father, from two separate branches of the human tree who met and stayed together and had a little girl. She is the only one like her ever found. A single specific person who is, all by herself, the proof. The different kinds of human did not just glimpse each other across some prehistoric distance and keep walking. They fell in together. They had children. The branches of the tree were touching. Think about what that actually means. She wasn't a category or a data point. She was a child. She had a face that had never existed before and would never exist again. Something of her mother's heavy brow, something of her father, blended into one small person who played and slept and was held in a cold cave in Siberia 90,000 years ago. And then she was gone, leaving a single splinter of bone that waited all that time to tell us the one thing it still knew, that her two peoples had come together at least once. And that is not a fact that stays safely buried in the past, because those children grew up and had children of their own, and the line ran forward, thinning, mixing, surviving, all the way down to the person reading this. If your roots lie anywhere outside Africa, around 2% of your DNA is Neanderthal. Not a metaphor. Actual fragments of them, thousands of tiny pieces, scattered through your cells right now. Some people across the Pacific carry more, several percent of it from the Denisovans. The gene that lets people in Tibet breathe the thin air at the top of the world was a gift, handed to them by Denisovans tens of thousands of years ago. The others are not gone. They are wearing you. In fact, with 8 billion of us walking around today, there is very likely more Neanderthal DNA alive on this planet right now than there ever was back when the Neanderthals themselves were still here to carry it. And yet, as their own kinds, as distinct peoples, every last one of them vanished. One by one, the other branches went dark, until somewhere around 40,000 years ago, the planet was left with a single kind of human walking across it. Us. You. Here is the part that should keep you awake. We do not know why. It is the most important question in our entire family history, and there's no agreed answer. Maybe we outcompeted them. Maybe we simply outnumbered them and absorbed them until they dissolved into us. Maybe their small, scattered groups were always too fragile to survive a violent, swinging climate. Maybe it was nothing but luck. They drew a bad few thousand years, and we drew a good one. Maybe it was all of these things at once. We are the sole survivors of a vast, branching experiment in what it means to be human. And we cannot explain our own survival. Every other way of being human was tried. Every other way ended. Only ours was left holding the world, and we don't get to know whether we earned that or whether we simply happened to be the ones still standing when the music stopped. So go back to that crowd, the one where everyone is the same kind of creature as you. It still looks completely ordinary. But now you know what it actually is. Not the natural order of things, but the strangest possible outcome. A family that once carried many branches, pruned in the space of a few tens of thousands of years down to one. You are what's left, the last kind of human, standing in a silence where all the others used to be. A silence that no one has yet been able to explain. But hold your hand up to the light for a moment. Somewhere inside it, written small, are the others, the ones who buried their dead, the ones who carried a blind man into old age. A girl with a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father, 90,000 years gone, and still faintly here. You were never quite as alone as you feared. You are the last of your kind. And you are also all of them, still walking, still here, quietly wearing your face.